Europe is in trouble. Pretending otherwise won't make the problem go away. Over the last few decades, and especially since 2015, Europe has taken in millions of people in a very short period of time. Across the continent, the same pattern keeps appearing. Cities that were once known for their beauty, safety, and social cohesion feel different now. Less safe, less predictable, less unified. Parallel societies have expanded rapidly. Neighborhoods that have little contact with the majority population, where police presence is limited, schools operate in multiple languages, and local norms no longer apply in the same way. Public spaces that once symbolized shared culture now require armed security. Christmas markets, concerts, and public celebrations are protected by concrete barriers and police, something that would have been unthinkable not long ago. And in some of the most generous welfare states in the world, second and even third generation immigrants from certain countries continue to underperform at school and show a higher vulnerability to gang violence and terrorism. At the same time, pointing any of this out is treated as morally wrong. Concerns are dismissed as exaggeration or immediately branded far-right or racist. The result is a debate that has become bitter and polarized and increasingly detached from reality, while the pressure underneath continues to build. Some people sense that this is a time-sensitive issue, that if it isn't dealt with honestly, European countries risk becoming permanently divided societies, places where large groups live side by side but no longer together. Others insist that even just talking about it is the real danger. In this video, I'm not interested in slogans or moral posturing. I want to diagnose the core of the problem: culture. Across Europe, millions of people feel that their way of life is getting worse. Not because they suddenly started hating immigration, but because the everyday experience of living in their countries is changing. In the UK, Sweden, Germany, and elsewhere, certain categories of crime have risen sharply. Women increasingly describe feeling unsafe in public spaces, avoiding public transport, avoiding certain areas, adjusting how they live their lives. Islamist terror attacks are now a permanent background threat. In fact, the UAE is trying to limit students going to the UK to study, fearing that they may fall to Islamic radicalization. Think about that for a second. Even more disturbing is that those most vulnerable to radicalization are often not new arrivals, but second and third generation immigrants, sometimes children barely in their teens. All of this is happening inside Europe itself. Inside countries that provide free schooling, free healthcare, social housing, and extensive welfare support, the very things that are supposed to reduce inequality and radicalization. Instead, we see the continued growth of parallel societies, areas with high unemployment, low integration, strong ideological identity, and deep separation from the wider nation. So the obvious question is unavoidable. Why? Why do people receive opportunities that millions around the world would risk their lives for and still fail to integrate? Quick pause in the video. If you are enjoying this, leave me a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. If you want to support me further, if you enjoy what I do and you appreciate the work that I put in these videos, consider buying me a coffee. I'll leave a link below. It really helps. And thank you to those who have taken that step. I really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video. By culture, I don't mean food, festivals, or clothing. I mean the unwritten rules people live by, the assumptions people carry about how the world works and how others are expected to behave. Culture shapes how people relate to law and authority, whether rules are binding or negotiable. It shapes attitudes towards work, personal responsibility, and the use of force. It shapes how men and women are expected to interact and whether individual freedom or group loyalty comes first. Most of this operates quietly in the background. People rarely think about it until they find themselves surrounded by others who play by a completely different set of rules. This is why culture matters so much. It functions like the operating system of a society. When most people share it, institutions work smoothly and trust becomes possible. When they don't, even well-designed systems begin to strain and eventually break. Culture is not skin color, though ethnicity does indeed play a part. Culture is deeply shaped by history, religion, and shared experience, which is why it cannot simply be switched off or replaced overnight. Through culture, social trust is created, and without shared trust, no welfare state, no fair legal system, and no democratic society can function for long. European societies, especially Nordic and Scandinavian ones, are unusually high-trust societies. I live in Finland. One of my earliest experiences here was losing my wallet at a bar. I only realized the next day that it was gone, with cash inside, and I assumed it was lost forever. When I went back to check if it might have been found somehow, the bartender, to my absolute surprise, handed it back to me. Everything was still there inside. The same thing happened when I forgot my laptop bag on the bus with my laptop in it. I got it back a few weeks later. And walking the streets at night without fear was and still is remarkable. These aren't cute anecdotes. They are the product of a culture where people broadly expect themselves and others to act honestly in these situations. As someone from South Africa, I can't tell you just how incredible this all feels. High-trust societies only function because most people share the same assumptions. That's where the problem begins. When large numbers of people arrive from cultures with very different assumptions, friction is inevitable. This isn't about assuming people have bad intentions. That's a completely different conversation. It's about incompatible norms. Some cultures treat religion as private, others treat it as political. Some see women as equals, others don't. Some view law as binding, others view it as optional. When those differences concentrate geographically, parallel societies form, and when they persist across generations, integration has failed. This is why second-generation outcomes matter so much. First-generation struggle is understandable. Second-generation failure is a warning sign. Third-generation failure is a systemic crisis. And this is where Islam is uniquely impossible to ignore. Islam is not just a personal faith. It's a comprehensive social and political system, one that often clashes directly with secular law, free speech, gender equality, and individual liberty. That clash is not theoretical. It plays out in schools, courts, neighborhoods, and public spaces across Europe. Pretending this is about race doesn't solve the problem. It prevents us from addressing it. The longer that goes on, the more certain Europe's fate becomes. The reason this issue turns ugly is simple. People see what's happening, but are told they are not allowed to name it. Questioning mass migration is treated as immoral. Criticizing Islamic ideology is treated as hate. Defending national culture is treated as extremism. So frustration builds. People begin to feel like strangers in their own countries and are told the feeling itself is illegitimate. That is a dangerous dynamic. This is what critics get wrong. Integration is not exclusion. It's an invitation with conditions. If you come here, live by our rules, respect our laws, accept equality between men and women, contribute rather than isolate. That is not racism. That is the price of belonging. Countries like Denmark have understood this. By preventing the concentration of migrants in social housing and dispersing them into predominantly Danish communities, they reduce isolation and force cultural contact. Doing practical things like this is a step in the right direction. Violent offenders must be removed. Gang violence must be punished decisively, especially when murder is involved. And ideological movements that reject liberal democracy need to be confronted, not excused. It doesn't matter if it hurts someone's feelings. If you're going to live in the West, you have to be willing to have your ideas tested and criticized. That is not cruelty. It's equality. It is responsibility. It's what makes it so great to live in the Western world. Europe didn't become what it is by accident. Democracy, safety, and social trust were built through struggle, sacrifice, and loss. If Europeans want to preserve that way of life, they have to take culture seriously again. They have to accept limits, and they have to stop pretending that good intentions are enough. This is not about hate, it's about survival. And the longer we delay, the harder this becomes. So, no more delays. It is all right to be proud of your country and your nationality and your country's history. It's time to get over this self-deprecating energy that a lot of European countries seem to cover themselves with, like a heavy, wet, dark blanket. Thank you for watching. Until next time, ciao.